Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Shartoff. The name of the show is Filmwax Radio. This is episode number 432. Everything in my body is working against me right now. My whole physical being, my emotional being, my mental being, it's all working against me to put up a show today. I'm just not in that space, you know? I'm not in the mood. However, I feel like I gotta move forward anyway and force myself a little bit. But I'm feeling the weight of the world today in light of all that's going on and all the tragedy that we're all encountering and living through. So I'm there with you guys. And I guess all I can say is if this show contributes to a level of positiveness in the world, then there you go. My name is Adam Shartoff. The name of this show is Filmwax Radio. This is episode number 432. We have 3 segments on this episode. The first one that's coming up momentarily is with the artistic director of the Hamptons International Film Festival, David Nugent, who is back for his second time on this podcast to talk about the festival. After that, we have on filmmaker Mike Day with I guess you could call it, I suppose you could, categorize it as an environmental documentary. It's called The Oceans and the Whales, and it's opening in theaters Friday, October the 6th. Also on the show is the director of a new comedy called Assholes, and his name is Peter Vack. He's an actor and now a filmmaker, and he too is on this episode. We're going to go first into the Hamptons International Film Festival. This is a festival I go to every fall, and even though this year it's taking place right in the middle of the New York Film Festival, thank you very much, I'm still going to go out to the island and go and check out the festival, which, by the way, takes place from October 5th through the 9th. And I'm going to talk to the artistic director, David Nugent, in just a moment now. And we did this over the phone. So here we go again. My conversation with David Nugent of the Hamptons International Film Festival on Filmwax Radio. Hello?
Hello, is this Adam?
Yeah.
Adam, hey, it's David Nugent.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I've been okay. Sorry I'm a little late to my car
okay.
died, and I've just been trying to get that all going, and now I'm a little behind. But,
no problem.
How you doing?
I'm well, thank you very much.
Coming out to the festival this year?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I am coming. I look forward to it. I'm just working out a couple more details with my teenage son now to make sure that he's not going to be too neglected, if I either go without him or come with him or whatever. Anyway, yeah, so the Big 25, huh?
Big 25, yep.
What does that, if anything, mean for the festival this year?
Of course it means something. It's not easy to keep a nonprofit arts organization going in this country. So, we're very proud to be at 25. We think it's a nice milestone.
Absolutely. I just wondered if there was any kind of, celebration around the number.
Yeah, well, we've done this series called 25 Years, 25 Films all year long in the off-season, starting in, I think, maybe February, where we show one film from each year of the festival in New York City and mostly out here in the Hamptons, in Palm Beach, and it all kind of leading up to our 25th anniversary, so we've been doing that. We're doing this big honoring of Julie Andrews with AMPAS as part of our 25th year, so yeah, it's very exciting for us. We're bringing back a lot of the poster artists. We've had a lot of local artists who have done our posters over the years, from Julian Schnabel to Cindy Sherman, Eric Fischel, April Gornick, Dan Rizzi, a lot of great people, so we're doing an event with them. So yeah, we're really excited about the 25th year.
Yeah, well, it's a milestone, and I'm happy to enjoy some of it,
Yeah.
So you mentioned Julie Andrews is going to be there.
Yes.
Wow. She's like America's
we're
sweetheart.
We're honoring her with AMPAS this year, so we're really looking forward to it. We're going to screen Victor Victoria, and then she's going to sit down with our co-chairman, Alec Baldwin, have a discussion about her career, and then present her with the award. And, we got a whole program with her. It's going to be great.
When and where is that?
That is Saturday at Guildhall. I think it's 1 o'clock or 1:30, something like that.
Okay. And also you have, I noticed Dick Cavett is going to be there?
Yeah, I mean, Dick Cavett, we've done a number of things with him over the years, and he's been a long-time member of this community his house is now for sale.
I heard.
It's pretty penny, too, about $64 million, in case you have that lying around. And he is moving, and he's just been someone who's done so much for artists over the years that Alec and the rest of the festival leaders, and we just thought it would be a really nice idea to honor his achievements and everything he's done to help support artists.
It's brilliant. Yeah, he did this podcast about a year or two ago, a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. It must be wild to interview him.
It was, and he had a book coming out, or that had just come out. So yeah, it was like kind of like a hero, like somebody who's talked to people for a living can kind of relate to that.
Yes, exactly.
But he was, his show was just so or various incarnations of his show, because there were, I think, 3, but they were all, it was all so fantastic, And then to meet him and go to his apartment, pretty cool.
Yeah, I bet.
So maybe I will do a Kickstarter. Maybe I can scrape together enough money to put down on the house.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, let's. What else is going on there? We have. I always enjoy coming because I can. There's no bad pick. Whatever you walk into, the likelihood is you're going to enjoy the film, and then.
Well, we certainly like to hear that. But yeah, we're doing this fun program with the movie Get Out this year, which I'm excited about, where we're doing an anatomy of a scene about the movie Get Out, and we're going to break down a couple of scenes from that movie. Mm-hmm. Eric Cohn, who I'm sure you know, is going to moderate it, and then we've got Daniel Kaluuya, who's the lead actor, coming out, Allison Williams, who's the lead actress, Jason Blum, Jordan Peele. We got a whole lot of people from the film coming out to do that, so I think that's going to be really interesting.
What went into choosing that particular film as opposed to anything that, I don't know, another film? What was about that particular film that lent itself?
I mean, it's just a film that's just such a phenomenon this year, I don't think anyone was aware that it was going to be as big as it is. And so I think it's really, I think it's the most profitable film of the year. It's at, 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's just been a really unusual film in that it's had massive box office success, and it's the highest grossing debut film ever that's not part of like a
franchise
property, a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's one that really, I went to see it out here in the movie theater, just a regular movie theater out here in February when it came out, and which is the quietest time of the year out in the Hamptons, and the theater was packed with young people, old people, white, black, Hispanic. I mean, it was such a diverse crowd that was coming out to see this movie. So I just think it's interesting this time of year to start looking at the films that have had an impact in the film world, and this one has had such a massive impact. So I think it's just going to be really fun to discuss this film and have all the key creative people from it as a part of this.
Indeed. What went into choosing Itzhak as the opening night film?
Well, he's someone who has local ties. Perlman School is out here in Shelter Island.
Oh, very good.
I think it's a really sweet and beautiful film by Alison Chernick, who's a really talented filmmaker. I think it's the third time we've opened with a documentary, and I have a real passion for documentaries myself. And it just felt like a good fit for it. I think our audiences are really going to embrace it. He's just an interesting figure. He's going to be here following the screening, which we're really happy about. So it just seemed like a really nice fit.
And I noticed I, Tonya is your closing night film, which...
Yeah, that was one of the last ones to come in. I go to the Toronto Film Festival every year with 95% of the lineup already set in place.
Right.
Looking for a last few gems, and I saw that film, and it was... Have you seen it yet?
No. I'm looking, maybe...
It's so great and so funny. And, we worked hard on it, turned it around really quickly to get the first screening in the U.S. and have Margot Robbie coming out and the director coming out with it. So that's one that, it's just so fun and so funny and so smart. So I think that's going to be great. And Margot Robbie gives an incredible performance in it.
Is it funny because it sort of pokes fun at desperate American need to be famous or to be to succeed or to at any cost? I mean, what is the is it have the tone of a satire?
It does. I mean, it's part of the film is sort of a mockumentary.
Oh, okay.
Where you're kind of talking to these people in current day about what happened, whatever that was, 25 years ago.
Oh, my God.
And, I mean, the funniest part to me was just how Jeff Gillooly and really more Jeff Gillooly's bumbling idiot friend were just such Keystone Cops and trying to pull this thing off. And so, yeah, it's just very, very funny. And Allison Janney, who plays the mother, is just so sharp and acerbic and... yeah, it's very funny. I think people are going to really enjoy it.
I had on Bob Hawke on the podcast a few months ago, and he was going on about he was very excited about the film After Louis, and so nice too. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. That's at one of the films at the top of my list.
Yeah, good. That's Saturday night, and I know Alan Cumming is heading out for that, and a bunch of the other folks from the film as well.
Oh, very good. And let's see what else. I think I can. I'm going to be there by Saturday. I got to get. I don't know how I'm supposed to line up my film so I can make sure I can get in there, but I'm really interested in seeing.
Talk to the Frank PR folks.
Yeah, no, I know. I will. Another thing I noticed you've been doing is the to watch out for group.
The 10 to watch act.
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of either wind or something going on.
Oh, sorry. I'm stepping outside because our office is so damn packed right now.
Okay.
Yeah, the 10 to Watch program we do with Variety. We sort of started a different program called Rising Stars years ago. We did it. And then 6 years ago, we started partnering with Variety to do the 10 to Watch. And so we select the actors with Variety. And, yeah, we get a really good group of actors this year.
Yeah, it looks like I've had on exactly one of the actors on my podcast.
Oh, which one?
Danielle McDonald.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, she was delightful.
That's great.
I would love to get Kamal. I'd love to get Kamal Nanjiani on too. Did I pronounce
it? Yeah. Yep.
So you have that going on. I'm just looking to see what other things stand out here. I mean, there's just a ton of great films, of course. Far too many probably to get into, but let's see. The festival runs from October 5th through the 9th.
Yep.
They can go to hamptonsfilmfest.org and get tickets for probably quite a bit of stuff still at this stage. But don't wait much longer.
Absolutely. And then also, we'll make an estimate. Let's say we think 100 people with Founders Badges will come to see After Louis, but if only 60 Founders Badge holders show up to see the movie, then 15 minutes before the film, we have 40 tickets to sell. So nothing's ever sold out. It's just that sometimes advance tickets are gone. But a lot, there's almost every screening at the festival. If you want to do Rush, you can usually get in. There's only a handful every year that we don't sell Rush tickets on.
Yeah, so be ambitious. If you're listening and you're going to be in the Hamptons, be ambitious. To put aside the films you want. Set up your strategy for going to the films. I've already seen a bunch that are in there, and I can guarantee there's a lot of great stuff there. But again, I want to reiterate, if you have a window of time and you just want to take a bit of a shot, a chance at something, most likely is you're going to have a great time. And most likely you'll have the filmmaker afterwards to engage with, right? So.
Yeah, we got a lot of people coming out this year, which is exciting.
One other film I have to personally mention because he's a friend of the podcast I've been on so many times is Owner Tukel has his latest film, The Misogynists, which seems
it's kind of world premiere. It should be a wild scene.
Yes.
Have you seen it?
No.
It's I'll be very curious to see how it goes. To be honest, Owner and his films, and
yep, even been in one.
They've even been in one. Good. So he pulls no punches. So,
right.
It's going to upset some people, but it's going to make a lot of people laugh and shake things up a little bit, and I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I got to try to get into, hopefully the first of the two screenings. Right. The 6th.
The 6th is Friday.
It is? Oh, may not get there. I'm trying to come up Friday before too late.
Got it.
But we'll have to see. Anything else I've left off?
Oh, one of the things that I don't know how sort of current the stuff you're looking at is, but didn't make it into our catalog. is that we added a conversation with Annette Bening, which I'm really excited about. So I feel like that might not be on some people's radars because it missed our catalog deadline. But we are doing a thing with her, a conversation with her that Alec Baldwin's going to introduce, and then Bob Balaban, who's on our board, is going to sit down with Annette and talk about her career. So that's one that I'm really excited about. We're doing one screening of Yancey Ford's Strong Island, which you may already know as a film that was at Sundance, which is great.
Yeah, she did the podcast a couple of weeks ago. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then In the Fade, we're doing screenings In the Fade and having Diane Kruger come out. It's the U.S. premiere. She won Best Actress in Cannes for her performance. So that's another one I'm really looking forward to.
Great. Well, I want to repeat, the 25th Hamptons International Film Festival will take place, again, between October 5th and the 9th. Check out the festival and get your tickets right now, and we'll see David. We'll see you at the festival.
Sounds great. Thanks, Adam.
All righty. See you soon. In their remote home in the North Atlantic, the Faroe Islanders have always eaten what nature could provide. Proud to put local food on the table. The land yields little, so they have always had to rely on harvesting their seas. Hunting whales and seabirds kept them alive for generations and gave them the way of life they love, a life they would pass on to their children, but today they face a grave threat to this tradition. It's not the controversy surrounding whaling that threatens the Faroes, but the danger is coming from the whales themselves. The Faroes are among the first to feel the effects of our ever more polluted oceans. They have discovered that their beloved whales are toxic, contaminated by the outside world. Join me now for filmmaker Mike Day, who has made a documentary around this very subject. The name of the movie again is The Islands and the Whales. The film will be at the IFC Center Friday, October 6th for a week-long theatrical, and then it will premiere nationwide on POV and streaming as of Monday, October 9th. I'm proud to bring on the filmmaker Mike Day with his film, The Islands and the Whales, here on Filmwax Radio.
Har särskilt vilja bekväm. Massia tai matrep. Det är det väl löv. Det är så som vi förenkar en rivleva och
in other countries, it will not be allowed to sell meat that contaminated with mercury. So if we don't come with our advices now and saying you should be take care, it will be too late.
Ja, mutta ei se päätyy. Mutta se voi.
Vitul skulle heta det. Och så är det som att spela mer inte något att det checkar något gott från dem. Ja.
That's true. It's probably more.
Great.
Honey.
Okay.
We have honey. We have sugar.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't really break down too good once it's iced.
Trying to avoid.
Maple, I use maple syrup.
Oh, really?
And unprocessed. So
is that
like
good?
a little,
I'll try it. I've never had it before. So,
because it is a very.
Thank you.
Russian palate.
This is. I've never seen her do this one.
This is part of the show, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Filipino. We give.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
I'll stop saying yes. Sorry.
Cake.
That'll be the whole podcast with me being
I know.
fed and drunk, and then we'll do a pumpkin recipe. We'll get the
No,
pumpkin
you have
out.
to eat it, like we put it on top of you. Also, how you eat through it
Exactly.
to get out.
Thanks very much.
There you go. You have your beverage and no, thank you. I'm gonna. Thanks. Just a napkin. Thank you.
That is a tasty beverage.
Oi. How do you pronounce that? Oi oka or ocha.
Oi-ocha.
Oi-ocha.
Oi-ocha. Oi-ocha.
It's not a good idea. It's just going to make a lot of. It picks up that's those kinds of noises. It's just going to be what. It's just going to be the kind of noise that people are going to be. What's that happening?
Yeah. Now we have to cut to a pumpkin recipe.
That's right. But we'll be. It's in about 20 minutes, and then because. Are you going to stop?
Give me a second.
I think this should be part of it.
It is. It's the recording is going. What?
Oh, it's the holidays. You should have the clinking for
There we
the
go.
dog and the vodka.
I don't think so. It's a different podcast. Okay, so the islands and the whales. I even got the right order, right, Mike? We ran into each other at that Doc NYC party, right? And you were kind enough to send a link so I could make sure to see it. It was a great idea because I did.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it very much.
Oh,
and yeah, it's a beautiful film, considering it's also on a kind of complicated subject. It's one of those things where there is the environment versus economy, or versus a cultural issue, like something that's been ingrained in a culture for many decades, like the food that this particular community on this island. It's a Danish. Island, right? It's an island that's a part of the sovereignty of Denmark, I suppose.
That's correct. Yeah, it's part of the Danish kingdom along with Greenland. But
That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the sort of the background of why this story ended up on your radar? Why you decided to pursue this story?
Oh.
You were you shot this other movie on the North Atlantic coast of Scotland. First of all, right? Your first film, or is this, or just your last film before the islands and the whales?
So I came across the Faroes when I was making my first film out in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland.
Mm-hmm.
We were filming the last 10 men in Europe who are allowed to legally hunt seabirds for meat.
Okay.
Not that anyone has much desire to do it illegally.
They were grandfathered in.
They
Apparently.
And it was this amazing quirk that all the legislation passed on wildlife had to have an exemption for these 10 men. So,
well, they're grandfathered in is my guess. Seriously, like I think they're probably just been, they're phasing it out. When these guys retire, that's it.
well, that was the
Is
question,
that it?
was whether it would continue or not. And they hadn't let anyone film it for 50 years. We were privileged enough to get access to it, partly because we could sail there ourselves, because my brother and I grew up on boats, and so the hunters said, if you can make it to this island, then we'll let you film us. But they didn't really expect us to keep turning up 20 hours sailing out into the North Atlantic in gales and hurricanes. And we nearly didn't make it a few times. But we managed to come back with something in the can, and the BBC commissioned it. But while we were doing that, we were in the harbour in Stornoway in the Isle of Lewis, and we met these boats that had come across the same waters from the Faroe Islands. And you don't see boats sailing out there. It's not somewhere you go for a pleasurable cruise.
Right.
And so they asked us what the hell we were doing, and we said we were filming these seabird hunters, and they were really surprised. They didn't know that anyone else did this, because for them, seabird meat was a staple food. It's their chicken. They have an abundance of seabirds, so that
it seems like they're just it's like pigeons. It's one of these. It's not considered a nuisance, or is it considered like a pest type of bird? Because I think we treat seagulls, they have a little bit more glamour than a pigeon, but not by much. I think they look a little bit more glamorous, and they, that we relate them to the sounds, the soundscape of the sea. I like them. I like a seagull or a tern or whatever, but they're not necessarily something that whets my appetite.
Right, I was going to say, yeah. I like a seagull, but not necessarily for breakfast.
Yeah, and seagull omelet is not necessarily something that crosses my mind frequently. But you must have tasted it.
I did. I tasted a variety of seabirds.
Okay.
There was a lot of things that I ate to make this film.
I'm sure.
Gannets and cormorants. puffins.
Right, the puffin.
And they do vary, actually, in flavor.
I bet they do. I'm sure they're very fat and whatever else.
It's a little like duck boiled in cod liver oil, perhaps.
Just the way you describe it. So, what is the general... first, let me ask, did you eat some of these birds because you wanted to be able to feel more embedded and to relate to your subjects, so you're ingrained by sharing some of their experience, or were you doing it out of necessity because of the lack of other options?
They have everything in their supermarkets that we have. It might just be triple the price.
This comes up in the film, by the way.
Yeah.
But it's marked up.
Yeah, it's expensive there. It's Scandinavian prices plus, a bit more in some cases. So,
I know, the dog. Yeah, every time I have somebody over here, I can.
I'm sorry,
filter it out. Lucy snoring. So the supermarket prices for other foods are more expensive. So so here's the thing, and I'm monopolizing too much, but I'll be quiet in a minute. But I was wondering, and I don't think I figured out, was the motivation for the locals, for the indigenous Faroe Island? Faroe Islanders, was their motivation to continue eating and fighting for, well, certainly the seabird meat, and the whale meat too? Was that because of the historical function, or because the economic? Well, it's never quite clear.
Well, it's both really. It's just it was their normal source of meat for so long that they're now hit with a few different things all transecting at the same time. You have a more modern method. You have speedboats, so you can go out and collect hundreds and thousands of birds. But actually the numbers of birds have been dropping for 100 years due to shifts in plant plankton and the food chain shifting, whether it's warming waters means there's no plankton, means there's no sand eels, means there's no puffins.
It changes the travel of, or the certain schools of fish travel in certain climate waters, right?
Yeah.
So all that gets changed when the climate changes.
And the whole ecosystem. So my introduction to the islanders was via these guys on the boat who were talking about that they were doing seabird hunting and they were doing whale hunting. Would I like to come and document it because it might not be around for that much longer? But when I got there was this story of the interconnectivity and the danger of our disconnection from nature and not really being aware of our impact on it or what was happening in it, because we live in comfortable houses and we don't necessarily have to interact with it directly. Or certainly if we do, we don't have a sense of it over time and the change. And there you had people who were seeing themselves the reduction in birds dramatically. This is a food that was eaten. I mean, they were hunting 200,000 puffins a year not that long ago, and now virtually zero because they simply haven't been breeding for 11 or 12 years now because there's no food for their chicks.
It's a nightmare.
There was nothing theoretical about these changes.
Yeah.
So the environmental issues seeped into the film.
I see.
But
you were doing more of a sociological. You had a more sociological approach. Sounds like it. At least initially.
Yeah, I felt it was just the ultimate microcosm to talk about man's relationship with nature.
Okay.
But then there were lots of very tangible things: the plastics in the bird, the mercury in the whales, the disappearance of the birds, the arrival of bees that had never existed there before that could now survive because it was warmer. None of these things were theory. They were very much there. So,
puffins, by the way, for those, I mean, anybody could Google these birds, but puffins are like little, cute, short, stouter versions of penguins. They look similar, right? Wouldn't you? Is that? Unless I'm not remembering.
Sea parrots in some languages.
Okay, sea parrots. I like that.
They're wonderful.
Okay.
Guys. They don't seem to be able to fly quite so gracefully. They kind of bounce their bellies off the surface of the water. They've got great character.
Yeah. Yeah, they make an appearance in the film.
Yeah.
They sort of become a pet of the one of your main subjects. This kind of follow one family.
There was an unexpected twist because one of our most avid hunters, he was shooting guillemots, and he ended up getting his hands on a live one. Which he decided to spare, and in doing so, by taking him to the taxidermist, who's also the country's main ornithologist and knowledge on all things to do with birds. He learned about the fact that they were endangered. He didn't know. They didn't know that this species was really in quite serious decline. The numbers had gone from 300,000 to 80,000 in the last 30 years. And he named the bird Paul. And
looked like a Paul.
He looked like a Paul. Yeah. And then he released the bird with a ring on his foot. So now he says whenever he's out hunting, he's always trying to see the feet before he fires.
Jeez. So I think the solution is to put a ring on every single one of those birds' feet, and
He says he doesn't shoot that species anymore now that he knows that they're endangered. So
it's interesting because when you put a personal connection to it, it really that's a strong way of whether it's bringing people in and seeing how food is created. It's a deeper, closer connection to the food we eat. I'm reading this interesting book right now, actually, on the subject. It's interesting.
There was one of the things that made it instantly complex was, from the whaling perspective, was that these were not endangered whales. There's nothing to say that they're endangered. They were quite plentiful, and the percentage that was being taken was within the sustainable yield by any numbers that were available. With the birds, however, like some species, it might not be sustainable, but if there was any of that conservationist side of things, that they would stop.
Okay.
So.
Oh, I see. I wasn't clear. Okay. That's interesting because it's so dramatic. There's some scenes. And then you have the environmentalists who come in to try to interrupt the whaling, right, where a number of the hunter-fishermen, if the whales get close enough, they can corral them to right up to the shoreline where they can literally just jump on them and kill them, And it's very hard to watch because the entire front beachfront is red with blood. It's a very dramatic and disturbing thing. Then again, as you alluded to before, there's a lot of people that we elect or hire or pay taxes to in order for us to, most of us, myself included. So the food is in great quantity and variety and at a very affordable cost in a supermarket, which looks very pretty. We spend a lot of energy making that happen. So we are disconnected from what's involved in all that before that, all the process that goes into and the effects thereof afterwards too, that we're not really most of us thinking about too much.
The risk of that disconnection is the waste, and if you catch the food yourself, you tend not to waste quite as much of it.
Yeah.
Our getting meat out of a plastic box has all kinds of impacts on the environment. I mean, that electricity generation is one of the main causes of the mercury that's in the sea, and that mercury is set to double as we burn more coal. And at the moment, the whale is double the level of mercury of, say, swordfish or tuna. But in 20 to 30 years, if the mercury levels double, we'll all be in the position of that family trying to decide if they should be eating the thing they love or not, because some children in islands are born with 40 times the level of mercury in them. So,
is that bad? I'm acting as the devil's advocate, but that literally comes into question. But and then also, I wonder if having a high level of mercury isn't a way of the species trying to protect itself, in a way almost like it's protecting itself from, people have to stop eating us if we are too hot, if we're poisonous. So, it's sort of a last gasp at self-preservation.
The mercury, there's always mercury in the system, but at the moment it's about 3 times higher than it should be in most of these species because of bioaccumulation. But of course, it has an effect on them too. A lot of orcas are having reproduction problems because of the high levels of mercury. So it's probably as bad for them as it is for us, unfortunately.
So much for my theory. Well, I'm not a scientist by trade. You understand. The name of the film again is the Oceans and the Islands and the Whales, and I saw it at Doc NYC, which was was that your United States premiere?
That was our New York City premiere.
New York premiere. Yeah. New York City premiere. So you actually played in another New York festival?
We played in Woodstock earlier in the year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was there.
Oh, really? All right.
I was at Woodstock this year.
Cool. I didn't make it, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry. I did. Yeah, I don't. I think I probably would have seen you.
Yeah.
It's not that many, Oh, really? It's not that crowded.
Oh,
no.
I was sad not to go. We actually visited there a couple of times during edit, because I edited with Mary Lampson up in Maine, so we'd visited Woodstock a couple of times.
Yeah, it's a nice place to stop.
Yeah.
And so that was the New York premiere. So that's nice that Doc NYC included it, because, they may not have done that necessarily if they weren't so crazy about the film, I suppose.
Oh, it's really nice to play there.
Yeah. Where did it have its world premiere?
Hot Dogs.
Oh, up in Toronto.
Exactly.
And that was exciting, I assume.
Great. Yeah. We started off recording this film in ambisonic sound with an ambisonic microphone. It's just a tetrahedral mic which captures the whole ball of sound in 3 dimensions around. And we'd originally done it. So the film was recorded with an ambisonic microphone, which means we capture the full sphere of sound around the mic. And in post-production, we can map that out to any speaker configuration. And during making the film, Dolby released Atmos, which has vertical sound axis. Channels 9 and 10 are up and down. So we could map that source sound out into the theatre as it was to be there and be enveloped in the sound that was there. So it was another interesting experiment in transporting the audience into that world. And so when we premiered at Hot Dogs, the Lightbox Theatre there
it's a great theatre.
Has Atmos.
Yeah, that's a great place to see. I've been there, and they have some of the best projection, and it's very outstanding. I don't know what you're talking about. That was really exciting and sexy talk. So I don't know if you're in a relationship, but you close with that, I should say.
Microphone chat will.
Yeah, Atmos. You won the Grand Jury Prize at the at Doc NYC, which gives you one of the rewards is a week-long theatrical at the IFC Center in Manhattan. So you'll be back probably, I'm guessing, in the early spring or sometime in the spring with the film. So what we'll do is we'll wait on posting this. Cool. We'll do it, just let's say the week or so before. I'll put the show up, and then we can help promote that theatrical
really
in New York. And we'll see you in New York when you come back with the film.
Cool.
Yeah. And one last thing you have to schedule in is this podcast then, because you'll have done it already.
Yeah, right.
And then I could also, in the intro, include details as to any other information.
Okay,
like if you're appearing and things like that.
Yeah, I think I'll come and do the Q&As. I think it works.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So it was fun. The New York audiences were great as well. So.
That's good. Yeah. I'll look forward to seeing you again. Thank you very much. I mean, I'd say so. It's the islands and the whales. It's I guess you could say it's a number of different films that are going on at once in a way, because you have a human component. There is definitely an environmental component, intentional or not, scientific, and which is broader than environmental, I would say, cultural. It's a lot of stuff going on in this film, but it crystallizes some key things that are going on right now, culturally and environmentally. I think it's an important subject.
Yeah, it was definitely. Thank you. It was one of the great joys but challenges of this film was the number of interconnecting things that.
Sure, I can imagine teasing out exactly, the kind of your main narrative, how you're going to structure the film.
Well
done.
Such a cinematic place to film as well, of course.
Yes, so, it's a brilliant, incredible looking film, so do check it out. And I know where I'm vacationing on my next holidays. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your coming on, making time.
Not at all. Thank you for having me on. Look forward to taking it to more New York audiences soon.
Okay.
Peter Vack is an actor and filmmaker from New York City. Peter was the lead on Doug Liman's cult series I Just Want My Pants Back for MTV, and is on Amazon Studios' Golden Globe-winning Mozart in the Jungle. As an actor, Peter's recent film roles include, now I'm going to just say all these folks have been on Filmwax Radio. Natalia Leet, her film MFA, Leah Meyerhoff's I Believe in Unicorns, Hannah Fidel's 6 Years, Clay Lyford Slash, Sarah Violet Bliss, and Charles Rogers' Fort Tilden. Yes, all those filmmakers have been on this show, and he's been in a bunch of other films as well. He's now directed his first feature film. It's called Assholes, and it's going to be released in New York City, again, Friday, October 6th, in L.A. on October 13th, and then on cable and digital on demand on October 24th. Please welcome to this podcast for the very first time, actor, filmmaker, Peter Vack.
Why are you always taking your pants off when you're around me?
Because
it's strange.
I like you. Because I want to fuck you.
I don't understand how you can say depression. Wait, what did you say?
Depression is like a fundamental truth, but like anger is just a byproduct of that.
I mean, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to use Tinder, but now that I know I can't, I just feel like someone's been taken away from me.
I love you.
No, I love you. You can't get into any more trouble or else I'm gonna call it off. I'm gonna call it off.
Call what off?
What I'm imagining, it would require like a whole team of surgeons with no anesthetic.
What the fuck did you think we were doing?
We're just fucking around.
Hello, people. It's Peter Vack, and I have allergies. Everyone's like, who's that?
Not for long. Assholes.
Not after this.
Assholes is just gonna blow up. Well, I actually saw you also in Natalia's film as well because.
Oh, Mavet, yeah.
Yeah, and then, but I've seen a number of films.
Oh, good.
I'm friendly with Clay Lyford.
Oh yeah, I love Clay.
Yeah,
Clay's great. Yeah,
I just saw him. He was here for.
Yeah, I saw him too. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we hung out
nice.
at a party.
And a few others. So I'm friendly with Matt Grady.
Of course, Matt's great.
The ubiquitous Matt Grady.
Yeah, he's the best.
Factory 25, who's been on here, and he is distributing Assholes.
I'm so grateful to him.
This is your directorial debut for a feature.
Correct.
You did one short.
I made one short film before this, and then
so where do you get off? Is the question.
I ask myself that every morning, afternoon, and evening.
Okay, so talk about how you came to write this, because you wrote it,
yes,
as well as directed it, correct? And you're in it,
correct?
But you're playing a kind of a supporting role of the brother of the main character, one of the main characters.
Yeah, one of the jokes that's not a joke; it's the truth. Is that I sort of always thought my part was a lot smaller than it actually was, and I remember in the days leading up to production, I didn't have any of my lines memorized, or I was very
because you figured.
Yeah, I mean, I was
so little.
Yeah, I was underprepared as an actor, and because there's just such a mountain of work to do in preparation to make a film as the filmmaker, and I had this sort of moment of terrified realization that maybe I wasn't prepared as an actor, and that's an interesting moment when the director side of yourself has to discipline the actor side of yourself.
Yeah,
and
right.
That actually you're going to have to be wearing both hats simultaneously and changing them one for the other so fluidly and hopefully seamlessly. And I was able to do it, but it was very nerve-wracking because I'd never done that before, and I wasn't sure how it was going to affect the process. But in fact, I had a lot of fun doing both. It's a real thrill.
You don't hear that too frequently. All right, so I want to get into it a little bit. It's about a couple. It's a love story, really, is when you get down to it. It's just a love story.
Well,
Assholes.
I'm really so appreciative that you lead with that observation, because there's been a lot of other, very bold, verbal markers thrown against this movie, like gross and disgusting.
Well, you're asking for it.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, you're
I know.
instigating it.
In a way, I am instigating and asking for it, and I don't mean to sound flippant when I say this, but the movie is more of a provocation in the world than I was aware of when I was making it. I think, my sister Betsy, who's the main character, we've had a lot of moments of humorous reflection, because we realize now that it seems like the people that made this movie were throwing such a middle finger into the face of the world, but it wasn't. That's the way we feel some are perceiving us, but in fact we didn't really feel that way when we were making it. Of course, you can't depict some of the things we depict and not know they're going to come off as provocative or salacious. But the main impulse behind making this movie was not to be purely provocative, as some people, I think,
even though
have
you call
reduced
it what
it.
you called it.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean the title.
Yeah, but for me, the title is just accurate. Like, there's no other...
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But people that aren't as thoughtful are going to look at the title, and I'm not saying it's going to discourage them at all. I'm actually thinking they're just going to be expecting a particular thing, and then they'll look at it or filter it as like a gross-out comedy, which on some level it is actually.
Well, it is a gross-out
sure.
comedy, but actually I don't think I was even aware of that genre before those words were... It's funny to say this, and again, I always feel like I'm saying, like, someone hearing this might think, oh, Peter Vack, this is just a line of his. But it's not. I actually didn't know what a shock comedy was before it was said about this movie. It just wasn't it's not a genre of movie that I have ever looked into.
Right.
And I didn't know that it was even like that shock comedy was like
a thing.
A vernacular in the vernacular. I just didn't
when
know.
you were submitting it to festivals, they were like, oh yeah, this will work in our midnight movies or
I thought maybe it would be a midnight movie, but we've actually not been programmed in many midnight sections because the movie's it's like it has genre elements, but it's not. I mean, it is a genre movie, but also I sometimes don't think it is at all.
Mm-hmm. But you appreciate the description as a love story.
Yeah, I really appreciate that because that was like when you're making a movie. There's like different stages, of course, and one of them is writing, and hopefully the writing stage you really leave behind. Hopefully, in a way, some of the ideas in the writing stage to sort of find them again on set and then find them again in the edit. Mm-hmm. That's usually my goal for myself. But definitely when I was working on the screenplay, my thought was, or it dawned on me, like right when the characters were meeting, I was like, oh, this is a love story. Mm-hmm. And that was always one of the guiding principles in my mind.
Maybe a venereal love story.
Yeah, I like that. That's cute.
Now he's thinking of a remarketing the film.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's true.
So you cast your family. I mean, so it's you're right. The whole Brown family.
Yeah, the whole Brown family's in it. Now,
Betsy is your sister,
correct?
And your parents play your mother is wildly talented.
She's great, right? She's really such a natural actor.
Did she do that before?
No, she's a psychoanalyst and has been for 40 years.
Enough said. No,
I mean, enough said in a way, but
yeah.
I actually think that psychoanalysis and I'm it's a big part of my life too. I've seen Patrick Labella, who plays the analyst in Assholes, is my analyst, and also my sister's analyst.
Wait a minute, really?
Yeah, I've seen him for 13 years. Yeah,
you've been going to a therapist for 13 years, and you're 20.
I'm 31.
You're 31.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not. No judgment here.
Well, yeah. I mean,
do you feel healthy? This is the film is.
I feel not. I wouldn't say I feel healthy, but I feel emotionally worked out. The way I look at analysis, I think everyone should be in psychoanalysis, and I think it's a shame that there's any stigma around analysis. That's not to say that everybody carries a stigma with them. The people that I know, I'm in a group therapy. Shout out to group, and we all are so grateful for our time with analysis. And I see it sort of as like in the same way that someone would ascribe to certain like diets to better their lives or go to the gym.
Yeah.
I think
sure.
It's strange that we don't have the same mentality with emotional health. Like,
right. Well, the two are certainly bound.
Well, they're like the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are. The same thing. Health is health.
Yeah, health is health. So I mean, I psychoanalysis is a big part of my life, and why do I bring this up? Oh yeah, my mother. Well, it's interesting. Something about what I think probably makes her an amazing analyst also sort of makes her a great actress, because to be helpful to a patient in an analytic setting is similar in a way, I believe, to acting, because you have to use who you are, you have to use your instincts, you have to use your voice, and I also think you have to have a certain charisma. Now, that's not to say every analyst is a good actor. I think my mother is a special case, but she really does have a great ability in front of the camera, and I would love for her to get other acting jobs from this, and she would be down for it.
I'm sure she would. I'm gonna only take a little bit, disagree a little bit in terms of the charisma. Well, now, my parents also, by the way, when you're in group therapy, I think part of being in group therapy is you also have to have individual sessions.
You have to have both. Yeah, that's true.
To go, right. Which you already said you did. But I grew up in a house where you know how there was the fifth Beatle always? Like the fifth Beatle?
Yeah.
We had the fifth Shartoff. It was Dr. Morris Factor, who was our family guy.
Oh, beautiful.
Morris Factor, or as I call him, Mofac. Anyway, so he handled my parents, and they were in individual therapy through most of my childhood as they all were also in group therapy, and they were. I remember all of the members of that group therapy. Even now, like they were very close to that group. It's a different thing. They socialized, so it's a different set of ethical values or issues around it where you wouldn't think you would do that, but I think it's not uncommon for people in a group
we
socialize, get so intimately close. It would be very odd not to, almost, I guess. That's right. There's a couple of scenes where there's therapy sessions, right?
Well, it's interesting because there's group therapy in
on the
Assholes.
Ground floor.
Sure, yeah, and that's his office. True,
yeah.
It's
looked like my old therapist's office in the same neighborhood.
Well, it's funny because even though that is Patrick's
Turtle
office,
Bay?
we none of that stuff in there is any of his. He keeps it so blank. We dress the whole thing.
You had to do it, otherwise it would be just.
But I do mention that there's group therapy scenes in Assholes, but I wrote all those before I was in group therapy, so I think they come off a little more absurd.
I see.
By design. And then my mother also is like basically the director of those scenes because oh,
that's great.
I like basically just said, listen, I want you to tell these analysts what to say.
So she was also like a consultant, a professional.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
So. Well, because I think we went off on a tangent in the sense of that your sister is the lead in this film. She's the main actor.
Yeah, we should talk about that scene.
And she falls in love with she kind of chooses him initially because
he's there.
And right, and then she's recovering, and when they meet, they're
both in recovery.
They're both in recovery.
Yes.
Jack
Dumphy
is the actor, and they. By the way, we're in the Soho House in their sort of screening room, I guess, or their somehow. I know there's a screen.
Oh yeah, I guess there is a screen.
And they do I was thinking I could do live podcasting here too. Anyway, so they meet and they sort of fall into an affair, but they also are reintroduced to poppers.
It's like a legal inhalant.
It is.
It's actually something that is more commonly used in among gay men because it really does make anal sex easier.
Yeah.
But it holds a fascination for me, which is part of the reason why it's in Assholes. But the other,
the name.
Yeah, the other reason why it's in there, apart from the fact that it's like the drug that would make the most sense given to individuals who have like a anal fixation, but also for me growing up like in the city, I knew it was like this illicit substance, but you could get it legally in a bodega, and there was something about that just had such an allure and so strange. And these characters being sort of neurotics and like trying best they can to sort of maintain their sobriety.
Yeah,
they feel like they're cheating, but not in a way that's as bad as like calling up any of their old dealers because they kind of get it over the counter
at a bodega.
Of course, and of course, we take some major liberties with the way poppers affects them in the movie. From there. That drug, we sort of supernaturalize its effects a bit, but it's apparently it's actually getting more popular. A lot of people are doing poppers now.
I've heard about that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how it affects the anal sex, but
it's just like it's like a muscle relaxant.
It is?
So it just like loosens up the soft muscles. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
More information than I
your listeners want this stuff.
Though, of course they do.
They're like,
of course they do.
That's exactly what
they're
here for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And next up, a conversation with Nancy. Like it's going to be a genteel.
Yeah. Totally.
Anyhow, okay. So they fall off the wagon. For all intents and purposes, it is an amphetamine. Right. It's.
Really, it's not. It's more like it functions in the movie like one, but it's in reality, it's like a very short-lived head rush that dissipates quickly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
But they're constantly doing it.
They're constantly doing it
because it's the rush that they're chasing, right? So I don't know how much to give away. Where they're visited by a demon. Is that fair to call her a demon?
Yeah, it's fair.
The fecal demon. I don't know how well. I don't want to give too much away. I feel like I'll be giving away too much.
I always have this dilemma where it's like I don't want to give anything away in this movie, but then also I feel like
you have to talk about it.
You kind of have to talk about it. It might be nice to have like a document of us discussing it. And some people don't like surprises. I do.
I do too. Anyway, and then what happens to them and their love story gone awry? But there's a scene, of course, which I'm sure most people at Q&As, I'm just going to guess, are asking about, and which is a scene in Times Square, right, where Jack again, he's the hero of the, of the anti-hero. They're running through Times Square. They're high. I mean, and he's being very confrontational to people on the street. And it looks like it's just entirely improvised with a discrete camera. I don't know. Is that how? And
the camera wasn't even that discreet. I mean, it was a red Epic, so it's not a small camera.
Okay, I didn't know.
No, I think some people thought that they were actually newlyweds. I think it's an interesting thing. I'll say a couple things about that. One is that I think we were all. That was the last thing we shot.
Oh, it is.
And I think we were all at that point, cast and crew, under the spell of the film. So I think that was one of those things that, for better or worse, would never have happened were it not for the fact that we all had drunk the proverbial Kool-Aid of this film, assholes, and were living in an alternate reality that allowed us to do something like that, morally and ethically. Whether it's morally and ethically defensible is something I think about quite often. The other thing I'll say is I think there's some interesting things at work in that scene about cultural masks. I think the first being white privilege.
Sure.
That I wonder a lot about if the characters were people of color, if they could get away with what Jack and Betsy got away with. And then the other mask is the one of heteronormativity, because they are dressed up as a heterosexual couple newlywed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we in culture sort of without... We hold this ideal up still on a pedestal, whether we should or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting for me to watch a scene where you see two heterosexual Caucasian people behave probably as bad as you could possibly behave, and somehow not get arrested or beat up. And
they didn't stick around for. I'm guessing maybe not stick around long enough because I'm sure
but there were some close calls,
very close calls. That's what I was gonna.
And it just I just always think something about the fact that exists. My hope is that it more than just make people upset. It makes people question the world we live in where that is possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to call me out or put me in trouble for that, I maybe I deserve it, and maybe that's a good thing. But yeah, it's a compelling part of the movie, for sure, and a problematic part.
But who edited it, by the way?
Oh, an amazing editor who I adore. He's a great friend of mine, Brad Turner. And Brad, I met when I was looking for an editor for my short film, when he came on board, and then we did this, and he cut Patty Cakes, which had a lot of success, and
Patty
he cut
Cakes,
Goat.
I had the whole group on.
Yeah, Jeremy Gasper and Andrew Deal's Goat, and he's cutting
Danielle and McDonald.
Yes, she's incredible.
Who's Patty?
She's incredible, and Brad's a great editor. Brad's an incredible editor, and we have so much fun.
Patty Cakes?
Yeah, right after Essels, he edited cut
really?
Patty Cakes. Yeah,
great.
Went from tiny to huge.
Well,
no, I mean we are a tiny movie for sure.
Of course,
but I mean, I say that with pride. I love small movies.
Yeah, me too. That's why you're here.
Yeah, of course.
One of the reasons.
Thank you.
And the cash envelope that
I know.
Kirsch gives me.
Of course. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. There's I'm really just paying so much money for this.
Really?
In cash. To you. Yeah. I bribed you.
Oh, for me, yeah.
I mean, I'm calling you out. Sorry, I'm calling you out.
Never. My guests usually don't. They go so far out of their way to.
To the listeners, I'm usually a lot funnier, but I have allergies.
I'm
so
sorry.
I hope some of you guys are laughing. Okay, good. I got one laugh.
At least one. So, Assholes, directed by Peter Vack, is going to be opening, as I put this up, probably today or tomorrow, October the 6th.
Correct. At Cinema Village. We're 6th to the 12th, and then we are out on digital platforms. I believe the 24th. Although I feel like maybe don't quote me on that because I don't know.
I think Dixon said that. Is he there?
Yeah, 24th.
24th of October it'll go on digital platforms, which sounds like iTunes, and it sounds like... I
think iTunes and Amazon, and maybe others in the future.
Do any have a problem with the title?
As far as I know, no.
I think we've finally arrived, with this particular... with the pussy grab president.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I sometimes wonder, if it's my place to wax so philosophical about my own work. I often feel like that's more... for other people to do, but one thing that I've never really gotten a chance to say is that this movie that I think deals a lot with rage, underground rage,
for sure,
was made at the tail end of the Obama administration, and sort of in a way makes more sense to me now with the emergence of Trump and a lot of the mentality that's unearthed in culture than it did then. And again, I'm not trying to call this movie that at the end of the day is kind of an absurd comedy, like super prophetic or anything, but like elements of it are, and like the fact that these characters are just thinking about the level of selfishness that we've seen on Earth recently.
Yeah.
I believe that these characters.
Of its time.
Yeah,
This movie's now, it's definitely of its time.
Yeah, that's like almost all you can hope for when making anything. That just you catch some even grain of like iconic quality of your time. Like that's just all. I hope
constantly trying to navigate a certain amount of selfishness that I'm seeing all over the place, and not trying to get too caught up in it. In terms of just, we got to end this. I'm kind of going off again on a new subject, but like just from people who stand in the places in your way all the time, like at a level because they're just, they're doing their thing, whether it's usually involves a phone or something, but anyway.
I really understand what you're saying. I agree.
Yeah. Again, Assholes opening October 6th. Check it out at Cinema Village and on digital platforms on the 24th.
You will love it or hate it. Just find out which one.
You may have both experiences.
Or you may have both experiences. That also is appropriate.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Feel better.
Oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate having me on. This is fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and for supporting Filmwax Radio. We'll be back in just a couple of days with another episode, and I mean it. In just a couple of days, we have a lot of stuff coming up. I just booked Todd Haynes on the show, everybody, so he's going to be back too for another episode. Just a little bit of a news-breaking bit for you there. Okay, so please take care of yourself and the ones you love. Until next time, thank you very much.